Hi, this is Ramirez. We're here at the home of Icon Collective in downtown LA. For this episode, we're going to be doing the final mixdown of this track. I'm going to be showing you some techniques on how to group things together, some compression techniques, some mastering techniques. As we've been going along with our track, we've actually been doing a basic mix. But for the purpose of this, I'm actually going to strip it right back down to zero and start from scratch. Hopefully within this hour or however long it's going to take, I'll be able to show you enough techniques to get you going and enable you to be able to do a basic mixdown. So let's get started. Okay, so let's go to our mixer. What we're going to do here in the mixer page. Now, I'll show you, I'll let you know that in the mixer page is everything that's in the arrangement, in the order that it's in the arrangement. Okay, we've got that arrange button pressed, I'll show you there. We've got that arrange button pressed and we're showing everything. Now, what I want to take the auxiliaries out of here actually, so if I click that, click bus, input, output, master, keep the master there, MIDI. Okay, so what I can do now is I can simply select every track. Okay, select every track. Yeah, there we go. Select them all, right down to my noise and pumping noise, and just bring everything down to zero in one go like that. So that's quite a good thing. Just make sure you deselect those tracks next. What we're going to start with is actually going to find a section in the track where everything's kind of happening. So I think it pretty much like where it comes in after the break here. We'll do it there. Yeah, we'll do it there. Let's do it there. Okay, so we'll cycle around those 8 bars because everything's kicking off there, apart from a few things. So it's a good place to start. Now, I like to start with the kick drum. Obviously, it's house music. The kick drum is the most important thing. That's got to be the thing that drives it along. So let's start with that. Now, one thing to bear in mind with digital mixing is that in the old school analog days when you would use a mixing desk, it wouldn't be such a bad thing to actually drive the desk, because that would give it a character and it would give it a form of compression almost. In fact, you know that some people would specifically drive the desk really hard to actually, you know, to clip the channels, to actually give it some drive and some dirt. It's not the same with digital. Mixing in the box, you don't want to drive it, you don't want to clip it, because digital distortion just doesn't sound as nice as analog distortion. So that's one thing to bear in mind. Thus, when you're mixing, you've got to make sure that your levels, you know, you don't want to be starting with your kick drum up here at unity gain, pumping right up into the red, as you would do on an analog console maybe, because that eventually, when you start adding more sounds, you're going to be right into the clipping stage right away. So you want to avoid that. So let's keep the volume really low. -8, even less. And what you've got to look for as well is that you're not actually clipping the master output. Make sure that you're not clipping there. So let's start with the kick drum right over here. We've got our side kick. Now we'll start with the side kick because, and the reason being is you can see there's no output on the side kick there, so we can actually set that to unity gain, because all that is acting as is a detector for the sidechain compressors. Okay, kick drum. So let's start with like around about -8. Okay. You can see our sidechain there. It's not actually making any sound at all. Now the filter kick, we'll come back to that. Snare, we'll bring that in next. We can work on the actual kick drum. We can even well, let's work on the kick drum and the bass line together in one go, because they've got to really interact with each other. And this is a great opportunity to work on those two things separately, make sure that they're working. That's first. Because after all, it's all about the kick and the bass. So now that kick drum, I think we could actually, let's put a little boost there. We're at about 80. Let's do that. Let's cut it as well below 40, because, and the reason why I do the cut is because sometimes with sounds there's a lot of energy in the sub-frequencies that you cannot actually hear on monitors, on smaller monitors. The only time you hear them is when you play it on a loud club system, a full range club system. And what those sub-frequencies can do are actually like make this track sound muddy. Not only that, not only can they make the track sound muddy and subby, is it actually eats into the headroom. All those low frequency sounds that you can't even hear are taking your headroom away. So it's always good if you can cut every track, every single track, no matter if it's a hi-hat or a vocal or a drum, always do a low cut on there just to make sure that those low frequency subby sounds that you can't hear are gone. Okay? Again, we can actually increase that. We can add a bit of mid grit to that. Okay, let's bring in our bass line. You can see the bass lines here. Slowly bring it in. That's a nice level. You know that we've got the sidechain compressor working on there. That's actually ducking the bass line when the kick hits, so not causing too much problem. Now let's add a little bit of EQ onto there. Again, let's do the low cut. Let's cut it below 40. We'll cut it below 50 actually. You can hear it's kind of like not interacting very well, so let's even cut it a bit higher. We'll cut it below 50. We'll turn that down. And we'll boost it. Boost it at like 120. Okay. And the idea is to actually, we don't want the kick drum frequencies and the bass line frequencies to be getting in the way of each other. So you can hear that we've separated the two out. Good technique is to actually boost frequencies in the kick drum at a frequency, at the same frequency in the bass line, dip the frequency. So we know in the kick drum we've boosted, oh where are we in the side kick for a start, let's go. We know in the kick drum we've boosted the frequency at 80. So let's go to the bass line. And we can actually cut, as I have done already, we can actually cut the frequency at 80. That allows the kick drum to poke through, yeah? But we've boosted around 120, which is like the sort of mid kind of bass area, which it gives it more presence outside of the kick drum. Okay, so there's a good level for those two. Now we can simply go ahead and start actually mixing the rest of the drums around that. Let's go with the now the next thing we're going to do before we even go anywhere else is to start grouping things. Now the bass line, in our previous template we made some groups, so instead of going to output 1 and 2 we can go to bus, which is bass. Did I name them? I don't know if I did. Yep, there we go. We can name it to, we can send the bass line to the bass group, kick. In fact, let's go ahead and just select all our drums: filter, kick, snares, open hat, tam loop 909, right, all the drums there. Let's go right ahead and send them straight to the drum bus that we've, straight to the drum group that we've previously set up, and I'll show you why later. Okay, I think the bass is a bit loud for that. Beautiful. So we've set that up. Make sure you deselect those tracks. Okay, let's bring in the open hi-hat, I think. Now, open hi-hat, open up a little EQ again. Now we don't need to use a full channel EQ, but we will do for this. Let's solo this, and I'll show you exactly what I mean. Okay, open hat, we'll solo it. Now let's low cut it. Right to the point where we can actually hear it working. And what that does there, I'll zoom in on that bit, is actually cuts out all those sub-frequencies. Now, you can't hear them, there might not be even any sub-frequencies there, but for instance, if you sampled a hi-hat from vinyl, for instance, you will have got the vinyl noise, the noise from the turntable, actually in there, so it's good to cut that out. And as I said, do that for every track as you go along. Okay, next one, we'll bring in a snare. Again, open up an EQ for the snare. Zoom in on that. Let's do a low cut, but not too much because we might want to leave the bottom end in there. Okay, we could actually add a bit of grit in the mid-range. Cool. Our hi-hat actually could be a little brighter. So let's boost the brightness a bit around here at this level. And also we'll actually increase the mid. There we go. Don't want to go too much with that. Okay, so we brighten the hi-hat up a bit because it was a bit sloppy. Okay, next one we'll bring in the tambourine loop. No, let's bring in some loops, pumping loop here. Okay, let's solo that. That's got a nice little hat in there as well, you can hear. Now you can see I've panned that over slightly to there, so that gives it more of a sort of stereo feel. Deviator loop. Need a bit more volume on there, so let's turn the volume up on the compressor. We've got an auto filter on there, let's turn that up. That would be why it's quiet, okay? So let's turn that back down. Compressor, turn that back down. Okay. Nice, okay. What else have we got next? We've now got our guru loop. Let's bring that in. You can hear there's some flamming going on with the kicks and stuff. That's probably because I've not taken that much care when I've actually thrown the loops in because of the time restrictions, etc. I've just kind of, but always listen out for flamming. Take care of the flamming by simply inserting a sidechain compressor, which will duck that hopefully. Yeah, that definitely makes it sound better. That's nice. This loop's really nice because it's a nice stereo. We can actually make it even more stereo, and I'll give you a technique here. So we use the actual